Hey guys, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be doing an updated video on 10 ways to keep your reptiles cool in summer. Some reptiles can handle higher temperatures, but some, like a crested gecko, can die from heat stroke if continually kept in temperatures that a leopard gecko, for example, would find optimal. So if you have one reptile or a range of them and want to know how to keep them safe this summer, then keep watching. So the first tip would be to add a window tint. When we first moved into this house, we realised a lot of light and heat came in these windows. Like, it's the hottest room in the house, I swear. We knew there was an issue when it was still pretty warm in September and October in this room. So we decided to get a sort of self-adhesive window tint. I'm pretty sure you can remove these afterwards, so if you are renting, this could be an option. But yeah, this isn't the perfect solution, but it will certainly take the edge off of just the heat and light intensity. Tip number 2, a blackout blind. This will certainly help keep a lot of heat and light out. So in the height of summer, if your reptiles already have lights on in their tanks so they can distinguish day from night, then technically you could keep this blind down all day, and hopefully that will help keep out a lot of that heat, a lot of that light, and keep the room cool. On the flip side, if you aren't able to get a blackout blind and you do use lighting in your reptile tanks, you can always temporarily turn those lights off during the day, especially if the room is quite bright. Now, of course, this isn't ideal, but it may help reduce the temperature a little bit in your reptiles' tanks. And by the way, if there is a tip you'd like to add that I don't list in this video, feel free to comment below. I'm sure it will help someone, and if this video does help, be sure to boop that like button. Tip number 4, get aircon. Now, this is far more common in North America than Europe to have aircon built into your homes. You're so lucky. Here in Europe, our houses are built to withstand winter rather than summer, and they get super hot. This is why I would recommend a portable aircon unit. This has been an absolute lifesaver. It is super loud when it's on, but my goodness, does it cool down the room. Now, I'm not sure if this particular model is still available, but I will find some highly rated ones on Amazon and leave them in the description below for you guys. Alternatively, if you can't afford an aircon unit, which is fair enough, they are not the cheapest and they consume a lot of energy. Luckily, we have solar panels, so they kind of balance each other out. But if you can't afford that, then a simple pedestal fan could do the trick. Interestingly enough, just a inexpensive pedestal fan has actually been proven to be more effective than a bladeless fan, so you don't need to spend a lot of money and it could still cool down the room. It won't be as effective as an aircon unit, but it will certainly help. Tip number 6 is get mini USB fans. These are super inexpensive and they can be very effective. I always keep these on during summer for Lyra and Drogo, my crested gecko and chahoua, but they can also be used with leopard geckos. So say your room is like the perfect temperature for a leopard gecko. Well, we don't want their entire tank to be that temperature. They need a cool side. So if you have a mesh top tank and it's big enough, installing a little USB fan on top pointing directly down can not only help that cooler side, but also help air circulation in the tank. Also, having that paired up with a cool bit of slate underneath, Diego loves it. Tip 7, you can use ice packs or bottles of water that have been frozen to put them on the mesh. Just make sure the water doesn't leak over your electricals, obviously. But of course, the cooling air coming off of these frozen items will help keep your animals cool. I wouldn't recommend putting these inside the tank where your gecko could accidentally lay on them because that could do some harm. Tip number 8, if your room is super hot, the fans aren't cutting it, and you're really struggling to keep your crested gecko, for example, cool, and you know you have a cooler room, but moving a glass tank is super difficult because they're so heavy, then you could try something like the REPTI Breeze by Zoomed. So Zoomed did reach out to me and asked me if I wanted to try anything. And for years before I got the aircon, I thought, if only I could move my geckos to another room where it was cooler, but moving, as I said, a glass tank is difficult, something like this would be ideal. So now I get to try it out. I think this would be a great option to try if you wanted a non-permanent tank with lots of airflow, that when you're not using it, you can literally just collapse it down and pack it away. So this is just mesh all around, and we wouldn't want our gecko to miss out on essential humidity. So you may need to cover one or two sides with a plastic sheet. But essentially, what you could do is set it up in a cooler room, add your gecko's LED on top, maybe a potted snake plant, a branch, a coconut, a simple setup for the day. Because your gecko will probably just sleep in the snake plant all day. And then, if it's cool enough at night, return it to its normal tank. I just think having a flat pack tank like this could come in really handy. For me, I did opt for a smaller size just because I know I wouldn't be using it as a permanent enclosure. It'd only be used during the day, so my gecko would probably just be sleeping rather than exploring. I wouldn't recommend this as a permanent tank for a crested gecko just because of the lack of humidity, but it could come in really handy on hot days. Just make sure you keep it misted. Which moves me on to tip number 9, mist your tanks. Not only will this help raise humidity for geckos like crested geckos, gargoyles, chahouas, anything that requires high humidity, but it will also hydrate your animals. Now, you may have to do a few extra mists than you would normally do on warm days, but I'm sure they'll appreciate it. And I've even done this on the cooler side of my leopard gecko tanks occasionally, as humidity isn't too much of an issue in these tanks. These are the leopard gecko official tanks by Custom Reptile Habitats, link below, shameless plug. But they have really great ventilation, so even when watering plants and stuff, it doesn't cause a humidity spike. And just misting a bit of cool water on the cool side that they can come over and cool down on has been really helpful. And finally, don't be afraid to add a little water bowl in with your crested gecko, for example. Of course, they are known to drink droplets off of the glass, but trust me, if you put a little bowl of water in front of them, they will drink it, and we really want to keep them hydrated, so pop a little water bowl in here. So yeah, I hope this video has helped. If you haven't already, please subscribe or consider becoming a patron. You even get to see videos and thumbnails early and get in contact with me if you need help. So shout out to the wonderful patrons of this channel who keep things running. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and goodbye. Maybe I'm painting